A woman fed a stranger from her last groceries. He returned
You
6
eat
months
today?
later as her new employer. The night Gloria Hayes fed a stranger from her last bag of groceries, she didn't think twice about it. That was just who she was. But 6 months later, when that same stranger walked through the doors of the company that just hired her, everything she thought she understood about coincidence stopped making sense. Before we go any further, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means everything to us and it helps us keep bringing you stories that move you. Now, let's begin. The checkout line at Harmon's grocery was down to 4 people when Gloria noticed her total creeping past what she'd planned. She quietly slid the box of pasta back across the belt. Then the crackers. The cashier, a teenager with tired eyes, didn't say anything, just adjusted the screen without looking up. Gloria managed a small smile and paid what she had left, $31 and change. 2 bags, enough for the week if she stretched it. Outside, the October air bit cold and sharp. She pulled her coat tighter with one hand and carried both bags in the other, cutting through the parking lot toward the bus stop on 5th. The streetlights were just coming on, that gray-gold hour when the city looked almost gentle. She almost missed him. He was sitting on the low concrete wall beside the bus shelter, hunched forward, elbows on his knees. An older man, maybe 60, maybe older. A duffel bag at his feet, worn at the handles. He wasn't asking for anything, wasn't holding a sign. He just sat there with the particular stillness of someone who had run out of places to go. Gloria slowed. She looked at her bags, she looked at him. She sat down beside him on the wall, not far but close enough. "You eat today?" she asked. He looked at her sideways like the question surprised him. "Little something this morning," he said. She reached into the bag and pulled out the loaf of bread, the peanut butter, the apple she'd kept for herself. She set them on the wall between them. "That's yours," she said, simple as that. He studied her face for a moment. "You sure?" "I'm sure," she said. "I don't live far." He nodded slowly, the way people nod when they're trying not to show how much something means. He introduced himself as Walter, said he'd been in the city 3 weeks, had a line on a warehouse job that kept moving. His daughter was in Atlanta. He was trying to get back on his feet before calling her. Gloria listened without rushing him. The bus came and she let it go. They sat there in the cold, talking the way strangers sometimes do when there's nothing left to perform. When she finally stood to leave, he thanked her quietly, the kind of thank you that comes from somewhere deeper than manners. She walked home with 1 bag instead of 2 and made rice and canned beans for dinner. She wasn't bitter about it. She'd made the same choice 100 times in different forms. Her mother always said your last little bit, given freely, comes back as something you didn't expect. Gloria had never stopped believing that. She didn't think about Walter again. Not really. Life had a way of filling every gap with something urgent. 6 months passed. Winter came and softened into a reluctant spring. Gloria had been job hunting since January, when the insurance company she'd spent 4 years with announced it was restructuring. Restructuring. The word they used when they meant people. She'd updated her resume 3 times, interviewed twice, heard nothing back either time. The savings she'd set aside were thinner than she liked to admit. Then, on a Thursday morning in early April, she got a call from a recruiting firm. A mid-sized logistics company downtown was hiring for an office manager position. The pay was better than anything she'd seen in months. The interview was scheduled for the following Monday. She spent the weekend preparing, ironing her navy blouse, printing extra copies of her resume, reading everything she could find about Hargrove Supply Group. Founded in 2009, distribution centers in 4 states, quiet company, good reputation. CEO kept a low profile. Monday morning arrived cold and bright. She took the train downtown, walked 2 blocks to the building on Meridian, and checked in at the front desk. The receptionist smiled and told her someone would be right with her. She sat in the waiting area, folder in her lap back straight. When the door to the conference room opened, a man stepped out to greet her. Gloria's breath caught. He was dressed differently. A clean suit, silver at the temples, posture easy and assured. But the face was the same. The same eyes that had looked at her sideways outside Harmon's grocery. The same quiet dignity she'd recognized in the cold that October evening. "Walter." He stopped when he saw her too. A beat of silence passed between them, the kind that carries a whole conversation inside it. Then he smiled, slow and certain, like he'd been waiting for exactly this. "Miss Hayes," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Walter Hargrove. It's good to meet you." She sat down across from him in the conference room, the folder open in front of her, heart beating harder than she wanted to show. He was warm but professional, asked her about her background, her systems, how she handled pressure. She answered everything cleanly, her voice steady by the second question. But halfway through, he paused. "I want to be transparent with you," he said, folding his hands on the table. "I know we've met before, and I want you to know that has nothing to do with why you're sitting here." He held her gaze. "Your resume came through the firm like everyone else's. I didn't know it was you until I walked out that door." Gloria nodded slowly. "But I also want you to know," he continued, "that I remember what you did. And the kind of person who gives from their last little bit is the kind of person I want running the heart of this company." She swallowed hard. "I didn't do it for anything in return." "I know," he said. "That's exactly why it matters." She started the following Monday. The office was smaller than she expected, warm and busy, the kind of place where people actually knew each other's names. Her desk sat near a wide window that let in good light. The work was real and the team was solid. Within 2 weeks, she had found the gaps in the filing system, reorganized the scheduling process, and fixed a vendor communication problem that had been irritating people for months. Nobody asked her to. She just saw what needed doing. Walter noticed. He didn't make a production of it. He simply left a note on her desk one afternoon. 2 lines. "You see things most people walk past. Keep going." She folded it and kept it in her drawer. There were people in the office who knew the story of how she'd gotten the job. Not from her, but the way things travel. A few were curious. One woman named Patris caught her in the break room one afternoon and asked flat out, "Is it true you fed him from your last groceries?" Gloria poured her coffee. "I gave him some food," she said. "It wasn't dramatic." Patris shook her head slowly. "My grandmother used to say the Lord watches what you do when nobody's watching." Gloria smiled into her cup. "Mine said the same thing." 4 months into the job, Walter called her into his office. He offered her a senior operations role, more responsibility, a team of her own, a salary that made her go quiet for a moment before she found her voice. "Why me?" she asked, not fishing for reassurance, genuinely asking. He leaned back in his chair. "Because you've already been doing the job," he said. "I just made it official." She accepted. That evening she sat in her car in the parking garage for a few minutes before driving home. Just sitting in the quiet, she thought about that October evening. The cold, the bus she let go, the food she'd given away without calculating the cost. She hadn't known then, couldn't have. That was the thing about giving freely, you never knew what it was growing into while you weren't looking. Her phone buzzed, a message from her sister. "How'd the meeting go?" Gloria smiled and typed back, "Mama was right about everything." Months later, the company held a small staff dinner at a restaurant downtown. Round tables, good food, easy laughter. Walter gave a short speech at the end of the night. He talked about what the company was built on, not capital, not contracts, but the belief that how you treat people in small moments defines what you become in large ones. He didn't mention Gloria by name. He didn't have to. She sat at her table, listening, and thought about the man on the concrete wall with his duffel bag and his quiet pride. She was glad she had stopped, not because of where it led, but because it was right. The rest of it, the job, the opportunity, the life she was slowly rebuilding, that was never supposed to be the point. But it didn't hurt. Outside the restaurant, the October air had returned, same sharp bite, same gray-gold light fading at the edges of the sky. She stood there for a moment before getting in her car. Somewhere across the city, a bus was pulling up to a stop on Fifth Street. A woman was deciding whether to keep walking or slow down. Gloria hoped she'd slow down. If you believe that what you do in the quiet moments is never truly wasted, share Gloria's story. Because sometimes the seed you plant from your last little bit grows into something you couldn't have imagined.